adding big numbers can be difficult. To make it easier, we break big numbers down into smaller parts. Let's take this big number, 3,456. If I look at it carefully, I can tell that there are 3 thousands, 4 hundreds, 5 tens, and 6 ones. If I wrote this in expanded form, it would look like this: 3,000 plus 400 plus 50 plus 6. Now this might look like a lot of extra work, but writing numbers out like this and understanding them can actually really help make adding easier. So the first way we're going to add is by using expanded form. And basically what I do is I take each number and I write it out by its place value. So if I have 158 plus 261, let's start with 261. And I'm going to break it down into its expanded form. So there's 2 hundreds, which I write as 200, 6 tens, which becomes 60, and 1 ones, which becomes 1. Then I break down 158 into 100 plus 50 plus 8. And now I can just add the ones, the tens, and the hundreds. It really doesn't matter where I start here, but I usually like to start with the ones. So 1 plus 8 is 9, 60 plus 50 is 110, 200 plus 100 is 300. When I add these three up together, I'll get my answer, which is 419. Let's try this with another number, 431 plus 38. So let's start with 431 and break it down into 400 plus 30 plus 1. And then 38 breaks down into 30 plus 8. Notice there's nothing in the hundred spot here because there's no hundreds in 38. Now I just add it up. 1 plus 8 is 9, 30 plus 30 is 60, 400 plus nothing is 400. So my answer is 469. Another way I can add is by using a number line. So let's take 158 plus 47. What this is really asking me to do is to start at 158 and add 47 more. And I can break down the 47 into a 40 and a 7, and then just add them separately. So I'll hop up by 40. So 158 plus 40 will get me to 198. Then I can add the 7. But to make it easier, I can even break the 7 down into smaller parts. If I'm at 198, I know that 2 more will get me to 200, and then I just have 5 more to add, which will get me to 205. So my answer is 205. Let's try this on a bigger number, 458 plus 321. So I'm starting with 458, and I'm going to break this down into 300 and 20 and 1. So I hop up 300, that gets me to 758. I hop up by 20, that gets me to 778. And I just hop up by 1, which gets me to 779, which is my answer. Now, I don't have to break these numbers up into hundreds, tens, and ones when I'm using a number line. For example, if I have a really big number, like 1,657 plus 563, I could choose to break that 563 up into different ways. Like, I noticed that if I add 1,600 to 400, it'll get me to 2,000. So I'm going to break up the 500s into a 400 and a 100. So I'll hop up by 400. That'll get me to 2,057. Then I hop up by 100 to 2,157. And if I wanted to, I could break up that 60 into a 50 and a 10 to make my addition easier. So then I just hop up by 50 to 2,207. Hop up by 10 to 2,217, and then all that's left is to add my ones. So I hop up by 3 to 2,220, which is my answer. Last, I could add the old-fashioned way. We call this the standard algorithm. So I have to keep in mind that I have to line things up just perfectly for this to work. So I got to line up my hundreds, my tens, and my ones, and then I have to add them individually. So to make this work, I have to keep in mind that 25 is actually 5 ones and 2 tens. That's going to be really important for this to work. So let's say I have 457 plus 25. So I start with my ones, and I add 7 plus 5, which equals 12. Now 12, remember, is 2 ones, so I put the 2 in the 1 spot, and 1 10. So I add that 1 10 into my tens column. Now I add up my tens. 1 10 plus 5 10 plus 2 tens equals 8 tens. Finally, I can just add my hundreds, so 400 plus 0 hundreds is 400. And that'll get me my answer, 482. Let's try it with a bigger problem. Alright, so I have 264 plus 579. Again, I start with my ones. So 4 ones plus 9 ones equals 13 ones. And I'm going to break that down into 3 ones. I put the 3 there. And 1 10. So I'm going to carry the 1 over to the tens. So now I add up my tens. 1 10 plus 6 tens plus 7 tens is 14 tens. Now remember, this is tens. 14 tens actually breaks down into 4 tens there, and 10 tens, which is equal to 100. So I can place my 100 in the hundreds column. Now I add up my hundreds. 100 plus 200 plus 500 equals 800. So my answer is 843. What's important to keep in mind with all of these strategies is to pick the one that works best for you. We like to teach students lots of different ways to add, but the point is not for them to add 3 different ways for each problem. The point is for them to find a way that really makes sense for them, so that they can reliably get the correct answer and also understand what they're doing.